My wife texted me at 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, "I'm filing for divorce today." I stared at the screen of my phone, sitting in my cramped supervisor's office at the data center, surrounded by the constant hum of servers that had become the soundtrack to my life. 22 years of marriage, reduced to 14 words on a cracked iPhone screen. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I texted back, "Good luck with your career." Claire had always been ambitious. When we met in college, she was pre-med, and I was studying accounting. She had this fire in her eyes, this determination that made me want to support her dreams. So I did. For 8 grueling years, I worked double shifts at whatever job would have me while she attended medical school, then residency, then fellowship. I became an expert at surviving on 3 hours of sleep and gas station coffee. "We're a team," she used to say, usually while I was paying another tuition bill or covering another month of her living expenses. "When I'm a doctor, we'll have everything we ever wanted." The funny thing about dreams is that they have a way of changing shape once you catch them. Claire became Dr. Claire Bishop 3 years ago, and suddenly our team of 2 felt more like a hierarchy of 1. She started working late, attending conferences, making new friends at the hospital. Important friends, successful friends, friends who didn't smell like server rooms and wear the same 3 polo shirts in rotation. I should have seen it coming. The signs were all there, scattered like breadcrumbs through our conversations. The way she'd roll her eyes when I talked about my day, the way she'd mention Dr. Adam Frazier's name a little too often, the way she'd suddenly developed an interest in expensive lingerie that I never got to see. Dr. Adam Frazier. Even his name sounded pretentious. 38 years old, cardiovascular surgeon, drove an Audi that cost more than I made in 2 years. Married to Leah, a trust fund socialite who treated charity galas like competitive sports. Adam was everything I wasn't. Wealthy, polished, and apparently irresistible to my wife. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from my son Eli, home from college for winter break. "Dad, Mom's acting weird. She's packing boxes and crying. What's going on?" I closed my eyes and leaned back in my chair. The servers hummed their mechanical lullaby, indifferent to human drama. In the distance, I could hear my team handling the afternoon crisis calls, their voices a familiar blend of technical jargon and barely contained frustration. "How do you explain to your 19-year-old son that his mother has decided to trade up? That 22 years of marriage, 2 kids, and a mortgage apparently weren't worth as much as a surgeon's salary and social status?" I texted Eli back, "Your mom and I are having some problems. I'll be home soon to talk." But first, I had some thinking to do, and maybe a little investigating. I left work early that day, something I never did. My team looked surprised when I grabbed my jacket at 4 p.m., but I mumbled something about a family emergency and headed for the parking lot. My 10-year-old Honda Civic looked especially pathetic next to the BMWs and Audis that filled the spaces around it. The drive home gave me time to think, which was both a blessing and a curse. Our house sat in a middle-class neighborhood that had seen better days, the kind of place where people mowed their own lawns and knew their neighbors' names. Claire had been making noises about moving somewhere more appropriate for her position, but I'd always managed to deflect those conversations. Now I wondered if she'd simply decided to move without me. Eli met me at the door, his face creased with worry. At 19, he looked more like me than Claire. Average height, brown hair that refused to cooperate, and eyes that seemed older than his years. His sister Jenny, 16 and fiercely independent, sat at the kitchen table with her laptop, pretending not to listen. "She's upstairs," Eli said quietly. "Been up there for hours, going through stuff." I could hear Claire moving around in our bedroom, drawers opening and closing with more force than necessary. The sound of our life being dismantled, one piece at a time. "Dad," Jenny said without looking up from her screen. Mom's been getting weird phone calls. She takes them outside or in the garage, and she bought new clothes, expensive ones. Smart kid. Jenny had inherited Claire's intelligence, but thankfully not her ambition. She saw things, noticed patterns, asked uncomfortable questions. Right now, those skills were working in my favor. I climbed the stairs slowly, each step feeling heavier than the last. Our bedroom door was open, and I could see Claire folding clothes into a suitcase. She looked up when I appeared in the doorway, and for a moment, I saw something that might have been guilt flicker across her face. "Tom," she said, her voice carefully neutral. "We need to talk." "I got your text," I replied, leaning against the doorframe. "Very romantic. Really captures the spirit of our relationship." She sighed, the kind of exaggerated sound she'd perfected during her residency when dealing with difficult patients. "Don't make this harder than it has to be." "Harder than what? Than ending a 22-year marriage via text message? Than packing your bags while our kids are downstairs wondering what's happening to their family?" Claire stood up, smoothing her hair in that unconscious gesture she'd developed since becoming a doctor. She'd grown more beautiful over the years, I had to admit. Success suited her. Money suited her. Apparently, I didn't. "I've been unhappy for a long time, Tom," she said. "We've grown apart. We want different things." "What things? What do you want that I haven't given you?" She gestured around the room, at the modest furniture and the mortgage statements on the dresser. "I want more than this. I deserve more than this. I've worked too hard to settle for a middle-class life in a middle-class house with a middle-class husband." The words hit like physical blows. Middle-class husband. As if the years I'd spent supporting her dreams, the sacrifices I'd made, the love I'd given, could all be reduced to a social status that no longer met her standards. "Is there someone else?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. Claire's pause lasted a heartbeat too long. "That's not what this is about. That's not what I asked." She turned away, focusing on her packing with renewed intensity. "I'm staying at a hotel tonight. We can discuss the details through lawyers." I watched her fold a silk blouse I'd never seen before, and something cold settled in my chest. Not just anger, though that was there. Not just hurt, though that was overwhelming. Something else. Something that felt like the beginning of a plan. "Claire," I said quietly, "do you remember what you said to me when you graduated medical school?" She glanced up, irritated by the interruption. "You said, 'Thank you for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself. I couldn't have done this without you. We're going to have such a beautiful life together.'" For a moment, her composed mask slipped, and I saw the woman I'd fallen in love with all those years ago. But it was gone as quickly as it appeared. "People change, Tom," she said. "I'm not the same person I was then." "No," I agreed. "You're not." After she left, I sat in our empty bedroom and stared at the indentations in the carpet where her dresser had been. Eli and Jenny hovered in the doorway, unsure whether to come in or leave me alone. "Dad?" Jenny's voice was small. "Are you okay?" I looked at my kids, these two amazing people that Claire and I had created together, and felt something harden inside me. They deserved better than this. They deserved better than a mother who could walk away from her family like it was a job she'd outgrown. "I'm going to be fine," I told them. "We're going to be fine." And we were. But first, I had some research to do. It's amazing what you can learn about someone when you start paying attention. For years, I'd trusted Claire completely, never questioning her late nights or weekend conferences. Now, with the blinders off, I began to see the elaborate architecture of her deception. It started with her gym bag. Claire had developed a sudden interest in fitness about 6 months ago, joining an expensive health club downtown. She'd leave for work in her scrubs and come home in designer workout clothes that cost more than my monthly car payment. The gym bag sat by the front door, a constant reminder of her new priorities. While she was at work the next day, I opened it. Inside, beneath the pristine workout clothes that barely showed signs of use, I found a hotel keycard. The Meridian, downtown. The same hotel where the hospital held its annual fundraising gala. The same hotel where, according to Claire, she'd attended 3 medical conferences in the past 2 months. I also found a receipt. Room service for 2, champagne, strawberries, and something called the romance package. The date was last weekend, when Claire had told me she was visiting her sister in Chicago. My hands shook as I photographed everything with my phone. 22 years of marriage, and it had come to this, me rifling through my wife's belongings like a private investigator, documenting evidence of her betrayal. But I wasn't done. Not even close. I called my friend Marcus, who worked in IT at the hospital. We'd known each other since high school, back when we were both awkward kids who spent too much time with computers and not enough time with people. Marcus had grown into his awkwardness, turning it into a successful career managing the hospital's network infrastructure. He was also one of the few people who knew both Claire and me well enough to understand what was really happening. "Tom," he said when he picked up the phone, "I was wondering when you'd call." "You know?" "Man, everyone knows. Hospital gossip travels faster than a computer virus. I'm sorry." I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of public humiliation settle on my shoulders. "How long?" "About 4 months, maybe longer. They've been obvious about it." "Tell me." Marcus sighed. "You sure you want to know?" "I need to know." "They have lunch together almost every day. Adam's been taking her to medical conferences that she's not even qualified to attend. Last month, they disappeared during the hospital Christmas party for 2 hours. People noticed." "What people?" "Nurses, mostly. They see everything. A few of the other doctors, Adam's wife, Leah." That stopped me cold. "Leah knows?" "Oh, she knows. But here's the weird part. She doesn't seem to care. If anything, she's been encouraging it. She and Claire have become best friends. They go shopping together, have girls' nights out. It's like she's happy her husband is cheating." That didn't make sense. "Unless—" "Marcus, I need a favor." "Name it." "I need to know more about Adam Frazier. His finances, his reputation, anything that might explain why his wife is okay with him having an affair." "Tom, I can't access personnel files or— I'm not asking you to hack anything. Just keep your ears open. You hear things. People talk around you like you're not there because you're IT. Use that." There was a long pause. "What are you planning?" "I'm planning to protect my kids. And maybe get a little justice in the process." "Be careful, man. These people have money and connections. They can make your life very difficult." "My life is already difficult." "What's a little more?" That evening, I started my real education. I drove downtown and parked across from the Meridian Hotel, watching the entrance like a stalker. I felt ridiculous, but I also felt determined. For the first time in months, I had a purpose beyond just surviving each day. At 7:30 p.m., Adam Frazier's silver Audi pulled up to the valet stand. He stepped out wearing an expensive suit and that confident smile that successful men wear like armor. He was handsome, I had to admit. Tall, well-built, with the kind of silver-touched hair that made him look distinguished rather than old. 20 minutes later, Claire arrived in the Honda I'd bought her last year. She'd dressed up for the occasion, a black dress I'd never seen, heels that made her legs look amazing, jewelry that caught the light from the hotel's entrance. She looked beautiful. She looked happy. She looked like a woman in love. Just not with me. I watched them embrace in the lobby, saw the way she touched his face, the way he pulled her close. They moved together like dancers who'd rehearsed their steps, comfortable and familiar and completely absorbed in each other. My phone buzzed. A text from Claire. "Working late tonight. Don't wait up." I took a screenshot of the message, then photographed them through the hotel's glass doors. The evidence was mounting, but evidence wasn't enough. I needed a plan. I needed revenge. The next few days passed in a blur of careful observation and growing anger. I maintained my normal routine: work, dinner with the kids, the mundane tasks of single parenthood, while secretly documenting every lie Claire told, every excuse she made, every moment she chose her new life over the family she was abandoning. Marcus proved to be an invaluable source of information. Hospital gossip, it turned out, was both vicious and accurate. The staff had been watching Claire and Adam's affair unfold like a soap opera, complete with dramatic confrontations, passionate reconciliations, and enough sexual tension to power a small city. They had a fight yesterday, Marcus told me over coffee at a diner near the hospital. Right in the middle of the cardiac unit. Something about Adam's wife planning a vacation to Europe and wanting Claire to come along. That's weird. It gets weirder. Apparently Leah Frazier has been telling people that Claire is her best friend and that she's so happy Adam has found someone who understands his needs. I stirred my coffee absently, trying to make sense of this information. What kind of marriage do they have? The expensive kind. Leah comes from money, serious money. Her family owns half the commercial real estate in the city. Adam married into it, and divorce would cost him everything. But if Leah decides she wants out, she gets to keep her money and blame him for cheating. Exactly. And Claire becomes the other woman who broke up a marriage, which doesn't look great for a doctor trying to build a reputation. The pieces were starting to come together, forming a picture that made my stomach turn. Claire wasn't just having an affair, she was being played. Adam got his fun, Leah got her exit strategy, and my wife got to be the villain in someone else's story. But that didn't make me feel sorry for her. If anything, it made me angrier. I need to meet some of these people, I told Marcus. The ones who've been watching this whole thing play out. Why? Because I want them to know that Claire has a husband and kids. I want them to know that this isn't just some romantic drama. It's the destruction of a family. Marcus looked uncomfortable. Tom, these people work with Claire. They're not going to want to get involved in your personal problems. They're already involved. They've been watching and gossiping and treating my marriage like entertainment. The least they can do is hear my side of the story. That Friday, Marcus arranged for me to meet some of the hospital staff at a bar near the medical center. It was the kind of place where healthcare workers went to decompress after difficult shifts, dim lighting, strong drinks, and a tolerance for dark humor. I arrived early and sat at the bar, nursing a beer and watching the door. Marcus had invited 3 people: Sarah, a nurse who worked in the cardiac unit, Mike, a radiology technician, and Jennifer, a physician's assistant who'd been at the hospital for over a decade. They came in together, looking curious and slightly wary. Marcus made the introductions, and I bought the first round of drinks. So, Sarah said after we'd exchanged pleasantries, Marcus says you're Claire's husband. For now, I replied, though apparently that's subject to change. Jennifer leaned forward. We're sorry about what's happening. It's been uncomfortable to watch. How long have you known? About the affair? Months, Mike said. They weren't exactly subtle about it. What about before that? How long have you known Claire? Since she started her fellowship, Jennifer answered. She seemed nice at first, ambitious, but most doctors are. But lately she's been different, Sarah finished. Arrogant, like she's better than the rest of us. I took a sip of my beer, choosing my words carefully. What do people think of Adam? The 3 of them exchanged glances. Adam's a good surgeon, Mike said diplomatically. But, I prompted. But he's also a narcissist who thinks his medical degree gives him the right to treat people like garbage, Sarah said bluntly. He's been through half the single nurses in the hospital and now he's working on the married ones. The thing is, Jennifer added, his wife knows, everyone knows she knows, and she doesn't seem to care. That's what I don't understand. Money, Mike said simply. Leah Frazier has enough money to buy and sell all of us 10 times over. She can afford to let her husband have his fun, especially if it gives her leverage later. And Claire doesn't see that she's being used? Claire sees what she wants to see, Sarah said. A rich, successful man who can give her the lifestyle she thinks she deserves. She's not thinking about the long-term consequences. We talked for another hour, and with each drink, the conversation became more honest. These people had watched my wife transform from a dedicated doctor into someone they barely recognized. They'd seen her become cruel to subordinates, dismissive of patients, and obsessed with status and money. "There's something else you should know," Jennifer said as we prepared to leave. "Claire's been talking about moving to a different hospital, somewhere more prestigious. She thinks Adam can help her get a position at the University Medical Center." "When?" "Soon. Maybe within the next few months." I felt something cold settle in my chest. Claire wasn't just leaving me. She was planning to take our entire life apart piece by piece. New job, new social circle, new identity. And our kids would be caught in the middle, forced to choose between the father who'd raised them and the mother who'd decided they were no longer convenient. That night, I sat in my empty bedroom and made a decision. If Claire wanted to play games, I could play games too. But I was going to play to win. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. Claire had been staying at the Meridian for a week, coming by the house only to pick up more belongings and check on the kids. She treated these visits like business meetings, efficient and emotionally detached. But she made a mistake. She left her laptop behind. I found it on the kitchen counter Saturday morning, plugged in and charging. Claire was at the hospital, pulling a weekend shift that I was now certain didn't exist. The kids were both out, Eli at his part-time job, Jenny at a friend's house. I had the house to myself and access to Claire's digital life. Her email was still logged in. 22 years of marriage, and she'd never bothered to change her passwords or hide her accounts from me. Why would she? I'd never given her a reason not to trust me. The emails painted a picture that was both heartbreaking and infuriating. Messages to Adam filled with romantic declarations and explicit content that made me feel sick. Plans for weekend getaways and discussions about their future together. And, most damaging of all, emails to divorce lawyers discussing how to minimize my custody rights and maximize her financial settlement. But it was the email thread with Leah Frazier that really opened my eyes. "Claire, darling," one message read, "I'm so excited about our European trip. Adam thinks you'll love Prague. And don't worry about the divorce proceedings. I have the best lawyers in the city. They'll make sure Tom doesn't cause any problems." Claire's response, "I can't believe how understanding you are about all this. Most wives would be furious." Leah's reply, "Oh, honey, I've been planning my own exit strategy for years. Adam's affair with you is just the excuse I needed. My prenup protects my family money, but his infidelity gives me grounds to take half of everything else. We'll both be free to live the lives we deserve." I read the exchange 3 times, feeling my anger transform into something colder and more focused. They were all using each other. Adam was using Claire for sex and excitement. Leah was using both of them to escape her marriage with her fortune intact. And Claire was using Adam to climb the social ladder, not caring who she stepped on in the process, including our children. I printed everything: emails, photos, hotel receipts, credit card statements. By the time I was finished, I had enough evidence to destroy all 3 of them. But evidence wasn't enough. I wanted them to feel the same humiliation and betrayal they'd inflicted on me. I wanted them to hurt. My phone rang. "Marcus. Tom, you need to get down to Murphy's bar. Now." "Why?" "Because half the hospital staff is here, and Claire just walked in with Adam. They're acting like a couple, and people are talking. If you want to confront them publicly, this is your chance." I looked at the stack of printed emails on my kitchen table. "I'll be right there." Murphy's bar was crowded for a Saturday afternoon, filled with hospital workers unwinding after their shifts. I spotted Claire and Adam immediately. They were sitting in a corner booth, her hand on his arm, both of them laughing at something on his phone. They looked happy. They looked like they belonged together, They looked like they'd never given a thought to the family they were destroying. Marcus met me at the door. "You sure about this?" "I'm sure." I walked over to their table, my heart pounding, but my resolve steady. Claire saw me first, her face going pale. "Tom," she said, quickly pulling her hand away from Adam's arm, "what are you doing here?" "Having a drink with friends," I replied, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "You remember friends, right? The people who support you through difficult times?" Adam looked annoyed. "This is neither the time nor the place for a domestic dispute." "You're right," I agreed. "The time for that was 4 months ago, when you started sleeping with my wife. The place was probably your office, or maybe the hotel room you've been charging to the hospital's conference budget." The conversations around us stopped. People were staring now, sensing drama. Claire's voice was sharp with embarrassment. "Tom, stop it! You're making a scene!" "I'm making a scene?" I pulled out my phone and opened the photo gallery. "Let me show you what making a scene really looks like." I held up the phone, displaying a screenshot of one of Claire's more explicit emails to Adam. Several people at nearby tables craned their necks to see. "Tom," Claire hissed, "put that away." "Why? Aren't you proud of your relationship? Didn't you tell Adam that you'd never felt so alive, so free, so sexually satisfied?" Adam stood up, his face flushed with anger. "That's enough. You're drunk and you're embarrassing yourself." "I'm embarrassing myself?" I laughed, the sound harsh and bitter. "I'm not the one cheating on my spouse. I'm not the one abandoning my children for a midlife crisis. And I'm certainly not the one stupid enough to think that Leah Frazier actually supports this relationship." That got Adam's attention. His confident expression faltered. "Oh, you didn't know?" I continued, enjoying the shift in power. "Your wife has been planning her own divorce for months. She's using Claire as evidence of your infidelity so she can keep her family money and take half of yours. Claire isn't your soulmate, Adam. She's your financial ruin." Claire stood up now, her face white with fury. "How dare you? How dare I what? Tell the truth? Protect my children? Fight for my marriage?" I looked around the bar, making eye contact with the hospital staff who were watching our confrontation. "How dare I expect my wife to honor the vows she made 22 years ago? Those vows don't mean anything anymore," Claire said coldly. "I've outgrown them. I've outgrown you." The words hung in the air like a slap. Around us, the bar had gone completely silent. "You've outgrown me," I repeated slowly. "The man who worked 3 jobs to pay for your medical school. The man who raised our children while you built your career. The man who believed in you when you didn't believe in yourself." That was a long time ago. It was last month. It was last week. It was every day until you decided that your husband and children were no longer worth your time. I pulled out the printed emails and dropped them on the table. "But don't worry, Claire. I won't stand in your way anymore. I won't fight the divorce. I won't ask for alimony or try to take half your assets. All I want is full custody of our children, because they deserve better than a mother who can walk away from her family like it's a job she's tired of." Claire's hands shook as she looked at the papers. "You can't. This is private." "Not anymore." I looked at Adam, who was reading over her shoulder, his face growing paler with each page. "Enjoy your European vacation, doctor. I hope it's worth your career." I turned to leave, then stopped and looked back at Claire one more time. "You know what the saddest part is? I would have forgiven you. If you'd come to me and said you were unhappy, if you'd asked for counseling or separation or even divorce, I would have tried to work it out. Because that's what people who love each other do. They fight for their relationship." Claire's eyes filled with tears, but I felt no satisfaction in seeing them. "But you didn't love me enough to fight. You just gave up and moved on to something shinier. So congratulations, Claire. You got exactly what you wanted. I hope it makes you happy." I walked out of the bar to absolute silence. Behind me, I could hear the explosion of whispered conversations as the hospital staff processed what they'd just witnessed. My phone was buzzing with text messages before I reached my car. Word of the confrontation was already spreading through the hospital's gossip network. By Monday morning, everyone would know the details of Claire's affair, Adam's manipulation, and Leah's scheme. But I wasn't done yet. Not even close. The fallout from the bar confrontation was swift and brutal. By Sunday evening, my phone was ringing constantly with calls from lawyers, reporters, and hospital administrators. Claire's affair had become public knowledge, and the scandal was threatening to engulf everyone involved. But it was the call from Leah Frazier that surprised me the most. "Mr. Bishop, this is Leah Frazier. I think we should meet." She suggested a coffee shop downtown, neutral territory away from the hospital and the gossip mill. I arrived early and chose a table in the back, away from other customers. Leah walked in precisely on time, dressed in the kind of casual elegance that only serious money could buy. She was beautiful in the way that wealthy women often are, perfectly maintained, expensively dressed, with the kind of confidence that comes from never having to worry about money. But there was something calculating in her eyes, a sharpness that made me wary. "Mr. Bishop," she said, extending a manicured hand. "Thank you for meeting me. Mrs. Frazier, though I suppose it might be Ms. something else soon." She smiled, a cold expression that didn't reach her eyes. "You're very perceptive. Yes, I'll be resuming my maiden name shortly, Leah Morrison. It has a nice ring to it, don't you think? What do you want?" "The same thing you want, justice." She opened her purse and pulled out a tablet, swiping through what appeared to be financial documents. "My husband has been stealing from me for years. Hospital consulting fees that he claimed were business expenses but were actually personal spending, gifts for his various affairs, including your wife, trips, jewelry, clothes, all charged to accounts that I thought were for legitimate business purposes." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because Adam has been very careful to make it look like these expenses were for medical conferences and professional development. But you've provided me with evidence that they were actually for his affair with Claire. That changes everything." I began to understand. "You can use Claire as evidence that Adam defrauded you." "Exactly. And in return, I can help you ensure that Claire faces consequences for her role in this mess." Leah swiped to another screen, showing what appeared to be surveillance photos of Claire and Adam together. "I've been documenting their affair for months. Hotel visits, restaurant meetings, shopping trips, all paid for with money that Adam stole from our joint accounts." "You've been planning this from the beginning." "Of course I have. Did you really think I was going to let my husband humiliate me publicly without consequences? Adam thought he was so clever, using your wife to satisfy his ego while keeping his marriage intact. But he underestimated both of us." I studied Leah's face, seeing the cold calculation behind her perfect features. "What exactly are you proposing?" "A partnership. You want to protect your children and ensure that Claire doesn't profit from destroying your family. I want to reclaim my stolen money and make sure Adam pays for his betrayal. We can help each other." She slid a business card across the table. "My lawyers are preparing fraud charges against Adam. If you're willing to provide testimony about Claire's role in the affair, we can ensure that she's named as a co-conspirator. At minimum, it will destroy her reputation. At maximum, she could face criminal charges." I picked up the card, feeling the weight of the decision. "And what happens to Adam?" "Adam loses everything. His medical license, his assets, his freedom if the fraud charges stick. He'll be lucky to avoid prison time." "And Claire?" "Claire learns that actions have consequences. She chose to destroy your family for money and status. Now she gets to live with the results of that choice." I thought about my children, about the pain and confusion they'd experienced watching their mother walk away from their family. I thought about the years I'd sacrificed to support Claire's dreams, only to be discarded when I was no longer useful. I thought about the humiliation of learning about her affair through hospital gossip. What do you need from me? Leah smiled, and this time it reached her eyes. Everything you have. Emails, photos, financial records, testimony about Claire's behavior and spending patterns. My lawyers will handle the rest. We spent the next hour going through my evidence, with Leah taking notes and asking detailed questions. She was thorough, professional, and absolutely ruthless in her pursuit of justice. "There's one more thing," she said, as we prepared to leave. "The hospital board is meeting tomorrow to discuss the scandal. They're considering disciplinary action against both Adam and Claire. Your testimony could be the deciding factor in whether they face professional consequences. I'll be there." "Good. And Mr. Bishop, don't feel guilty about this. They made their choices. Now they get to live with the consequences." The hospital board meeting was held in a sterile conference room that smelled of disinfectant and broken dreams. I sat at a long table facing 7 board members, with Claire and Adam on one side and their lawyers on the other. Claire looked terrible. Her usually perfect appearance was disheveled, her eyes red from crying. Adam sat beside her, his confident demeanor replaced by barely controlled panic. Their lawyers whispered urgently in their ears, but I could see the defeat in their postures. "Mr. Bishop," the board chairman said, "thank you for agreeing to testify today. Please tell us, in your own words, how this situation has affected you and your family." I looked at Claire, remembering the woman I'd fallen in love with 22 years ago. For a moment, I felt a flicker of the old affection, the desire to protect her from harm. Then I thought about Eli and Jenny, and the flicker died. "My wife abandoned our family for an affair with Dr. Frazier," I began. "She lied to me, to our children, and apparently to this hospital about her whereabouts and activities. She used hospital resources and Dr. Frazier's position to fund their relationship, including expensive trips and gifts that were charged to accounts meant for medical conferences." I pulled out the printed emails and financial records. "She also conspired with Dr. Frazier to damage my reputation and limit my custody rights, using false allegations and manipulated evidence." Claire's lawyer leaned forward. "Mr. Bishop, you're clearly bitter about your divorce." "This isn't about divorce," I interrupted. "This is about 2 medical professionals who violated their ethical obligations and used their positions for personal gain. This is about the abuse of trust and resources that this hospital provided." I looked directly at Claire. "My wife didn't just cheat on me. She cheated on her patients, her colleagues, and her profession. She turned her medical career into a tool for personal advancement, regardless of who got hurt in the process." The board members asked questions for another hour, reviewing the evidence and taking detailed notes. Claire tried to defend herself, claiming that her personal life had no bearing on her professional conduct, but the evidence was overwhelming. Adam said nothing. His lawyers had clearly advised him to remain silent, knowing that anything he said could be used against him in the criminal proceedings that Leah's team was preparing. When it was over, the board chairman announced that they would deliberate and announce their decision within 48 hours. Claire caught up with me in the parking lot, her face streaked with tears. "Tom, please," she said. "You're destroying my career. You're destroying my life." "I'm not destroying anything," I replied. "I'm just refusing to help you cover up what you've already destroyed. What about our children? What about the family we built together? You should have thought about that before you decided our family wasn't good enough for you." She grabbed my arm, her grip desperate. "I made a mistake. I know that now. But please, don't let your anger destroy everything I've worked for." I looked at her hand on my arm, remembering all the times she'd reached for me in love, in comfort, in partnership. Those days felt like a lifetime ago. "Claire," I said gently, "you destroyed everything you worked for the moment you decided that your marriage vows were negotiable. I didn't do this to you. You did this to yourself." I got in my car and drove away, leaving her standing alone in the parking lot. In my rearview mirror, I could see her crying, her perfect facade finally cracking under the weight of her choices. 2 days later, The hospital announced that both Dr. Claire Bishop and Dr. Adam Frazier had been suspended pending further investigation. Within a week, criminal fraud charges were filed against Adam, with Claire named as a co-conspirator. The local news picked up the story, turning it into a cautionary tale about medical professionals who abused their positions for personal gain. Claire's name and photo appeared in newspapers and on television, forever linking her to the scandal. But the real victory came a month later, when the family court awarded me full custody of Eli and Jenny. Claire's legal troubles and documented abandonment of her family had made the decision easy for the judge. That evening, I sat in our living room with my children, watching them do homework and argue about television shows. It was a normal, mundane, perfectly middle-class evening. And it was beautiful. Claire had been right about one thing. She deserved more than a middle-class life. She deserved exactly what she got: public humiliation, professional ruin, and the loss of everything that actually mattered. As for me, I had everything I needed. My children, my integrity, and the satisfaction of knowing that sometimes justice actually wins. My phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Marcus. Saw the news about Adam's sentencing. 3 years for fraud. How are you feeling? I typed back, like justice has been served. And for the first time in months, I was genuinely smiling.